Stephanie from the Yale Alumni Association. I am a member of the regional clubs team, and Yale Alumni Live is a series that we put together to bring alumni together with some entertaining content to supplement the amazing webinars that are coming out of our team as well. So I am very pleased to have you all here with us tonight. I'm just going to do a couple quick housekeeping items. We have two platforms going tonight. We have some folks who have joined us in Zoom, and then we have those of you who are in the Yale Alumni Facebook group. So I'm going to be monitoring questions tonight and comments if you have any for Chef Mark. So please feel free to drop those in the chat. And for those of you who are in the Zoom, please feel free to put them in the Q&A or the chat as well, and I will get them over to Chef. So once again, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. Before we get started, we are going to just take a quick moment. I'm sure that many of you have seen the messages that have come from the university, from President Salovey, and also from the YAA. But we also just wanted to take a moment to recognize and acknowledge what a difficult time this has been for our country and a painful time for so many of us. The killing of George Floyd once again has exposed the injustice and inequality that continue to rack our country. His death and the extent of the ensuing violence requires our attention and highlights the need for change and the importance of our role in affecting that change, as the protests demonstrate the depth and strength and compassion in the call for a better society, one that works for all. Please know that Yale and those of us, especially me at the YAA, stand in strength and solidarity with the Black community, our alumni who are hurting right now, and everyone who stands up against racism, hatred, intolerance, and injustice. I hope you are all safe and well, and that you enjoy today's Yale Alumni Live with one of the things that I think brings people together, and that is food. So we are very excited to have Chef Mark Tafoya, class of '93, who's a personal chef with a remarkable palate, with us here tonight, and he is going to teach us how to make dumplings. So just a reminder, again, you can put your questions in the chat in Zoom or on Facebook, and with that, take it away, Chef Mark. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie. Thanks for that welcome, and I'm glad that you put it the way you did about food bringing people together. I've actually written an essay called Diplomacy of the Dish, which is all about cultural understanding through food and through taste. And for the last 8 years, I have worked with the US State Department. I go to different countries and represent the USA and really share about how our heritage, our country was brought together by so many different cultures. And the only way that it works for us to come together is to really celebrate the differences that we have. And right now, like this week, what's important is that we stand with our African-American brothers and sisters in whatever way works for you, whatever way works for anyone, but really acknowledge that what's happening in America is important. It's a really important moment in our history, and one not to be glossed over. So while it may seem at first frivolous to, oh, let's do a cooking show, I think we can hold both at the same time, right? We can hold space for both, and I request that everyone who's with us tonight does that. So yeah.
Thank you, Chef. So I think everyone should have seen the ingredient list, and I think that folks are going to follow along tonight. So we are ready to get into the class whenever
Perfect.
you are.
Excellent. So really the thing about dumplings is they can take so many different forms, and so many cultures, speaking of that whole mix of cultures, so many cultures have some form of dumpling. In China, we have the classic dumpling. In Nepal, there's the momo. In Central Asia, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, they have manti and all kinds of different kinds of, basically if there's anything you can stuff into dough and steam it, boil it, or fry it, then hey, it's good to go. We're gonna do kind of the typical Chinese style dumpling today, okay? And I gave you a recipe or an ingredient list, and I didn't give you a recipe specifically because it should be yours to make. When you have the basic proportions, the basic mixture of ingredients, you can choose which you'll want to include, which you'll want to not include, or which you might want to add, okay? So, with that, I'm gonna kind of walk you through some of the mise en place that we've got here, and hopefully you can see this. I'm just turning my camera down. Okay, so the main ingredients that I'm gonna use in this dumpling, we have ground pork, and we have shrimp that I've kind of chopped up into, kind of chunky chunks, right? Not too small, not like a fine mince, and not a paste, and not, big giant pieces of shrimp. You want kind of nice mixture. And the pork, if you see, has a good amount of fat in it. This is a ground pork sausage. Okay, so that's the base of it. And then we got all our other ingredients. Okay, ginger is almost always included in any kind of Chinese dumpling. And then, you know, this is the how it comes. Everyone recognizes that. What you want to do for yourself, as I step away, the best way to peel ginger, I'm going to just show you this real quick. Best way to peel ginger, take a spoon, the edge of a spoon, and simply drag it along the skin. And you see that? It just takes the skin away. That's the easiest way. If you use a knife or if you use a peeler, you're going to peel away a lot of your ginger. So that's a quick way to do that. And of course, I have this minced ginger. We've got scallion. I've got the white part that's cut up into rounds. And I've got the green part here that's minced finely. I've got a little bit of Shaoxing wine, which is a Chinese wine. If you don't have that, you can use sherry. You could even use marsala, any kind of sweet wine. You could use the sake, you know, whatever you like. Or you could omit it altogether if you don't like that. Got some chives just because I had them. I've got some shiitake mushrooms that I've thinly sliced, and you can see that's the actual mushroom, how it comes. And then I've got cabbage, and you can use, ideally you want to use Napa cabbage, but really whatever cabbage you want is fine. And this is finely shredded, and I've shredded some carrot as well just for color. And what I've done is I've actually put the cabbage and the carrot together and salted it. You put about 2 tablespoons of salt and you kind of toss it, then let it sit for 10, 15 minutes or so, and then squeeze out all that juice that comes out, all the liquid. And that's what I've got here. So that's going to go straight into that. Alternatively, you could cook the ginger and the cabbage and the carrots a little bit and then drain them. But I find for myself that ends up with a little too much liquid, okay? So that's the mise en place for the filling. So any of you who are kind of cooking along with us, you'll wanna take your cabbage and your carrots, or if you don't have carrots, just the cabbage, and put a little salt on it in a bowl and just toss it around, let it sit for a few minutes while we make the dumpling wrappers, okay? So do that, and then we'll squeeze that out and add it to the rest of the ingredients, okay? So for right now, I'm just gonna set this down. And then we're gonna make the wrappers, okay? And for the wrappers, I've got 2 cups of all-purpose flour, okay? That's just in a bowl, all right? And then I'm gonna kind of turn the camera and show you. Over there on the stove, I've got boiling water. And so there's 2 kinds of dumpling dough. It's the same basic ingredients, but one is using hot water, one is using cold water. The cold water dumpling is used for boiled dumplings. Anytime you want to boil the dumpling in water, okay? It produces a thicker skin, one that doesn't fall apart as easily. We're going to do steamed dumplings. So for steamed dumplings or pan-fried dumplings, you want to use a hot water dough, okay? So what I've done is I've brought water to the boil. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure out 3/4 cup of just boiled water. So you see this is kind of hot. You want to be careful about this, okay? It can be a delicate operation. Okay, 3/4 cup of just boiled water. And then you're going to take a wooden spoon. All right, I'm going to adjust the camera now so you can see the action here, how this works. All right, can you guys see that pretty well?
Yes.
Stephanie, you can talk to
yeah,
me
I'll
as
you.
we go. Okay. So
Chef Mark, we just have a quick question before you go on. We had just a question about how many dumplings will the ingredients that we listed on the page make? Does that make sense? Did I get that out right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this will make, so it's funny, because this is cooking, right? We do it in advance. This is half of the recipe because I already rolled out half of the dumplings, and the 1/2 of that made, I think 5 + 5, made about 18 wrappers. So this 2-cup recipe will make you like 36 wrappers or something like that. Lots of wrappers because you roll them out real thin. Okay, so no worries about that. And then the filling itself, I think should give you probably 2 dozen dumplings at least. Yeah. Okay, good question. Yeah, thanks. I didn't note that. So you want to do, your water has just boiled, okay, and you want to make a little well. And this takes a little practice because you want to pour the water in and stir as you go. The point is only to moisten all the flour in this first go around. So you might have to stop, you know, sometimes the bowl likes to roll around. You might need to stop for a minute and just turn it. You know, right now the goal is just to get all of the flour wet. You don't want any goopy spots with that. So, you know, you can stop, you can take your time, but basically we're creating a hot water dough. And this is going to create, once we develop the gluten by kneading it, this is going to enable you to have a dough that holds up very well under steaming, and you can have a thin skin for it. Okay, that's the rest. And if you need to, you can always add just a tiny bit more water, and it doesn't have to be hot, okay? So that's our initial pour. And then the fun stuff, now's the fun part. Now it's hot, but it's not, you know, this is not going to scald you. One tip for this is you don't have to have the water actually boiling. You can boil the water and then let it sit for a few minutes, as long as it's still hot. So freshly boiled water, not necessarily boiling water. We try to make that distinction. We don't want anyone to burn their hands. But you can kind of see, this is like, you know, it's kind of starting to come together. All of the flour has touched moisture at this point. And now all I'm going to do is kind of give it a good old squeeze, just like when you were a kid and you played with mud, you know, making mud pies. And you'll see that like this part already came together, and there's some little pieces in the bowl. Just kind of grab those and squeeze it in. As you kind of push it against the bowl like that, it'll start to incorporate. You can do this entire process in the bowl, or once it comes together as a ball, you can start to work on a surface, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, but you can kind of see, look, now there's some bits and pieces on my fingers. All you do is kind of give yourself a little, like you're washing your hands, you know, you rub it, and then you incorporate that in. Okay, so that's good to go. Now I'm going to set it on my counter, and I'm going to just dust it with just a tiny bit of flour, not too much. We're not trying to, it's not going to be like a pasta dough, right, where we're incorporating more flour as we go, but just enough so it won't stick. And now we're going to knead, okay? So for about 2 minutes, you can knead it. And any kneading technique, whether it's bread or tortillas or dumplings, you're folding it over, and then you're using the palm of your hand to press forward. What that does is that little by little, that develops the gluten that's in there so that it becomes a little spongy, okay? There is a method of doing this in the food processor where you just, you know, you turn it on, you drip in your hot water, you whiz it in until it becomes a ball. And then once it's the right consistency, you just run it, you know, you kind of pulse it or run it for another 30 seconds or so. And that does most of the kneading for you. I just wanted to show it to you this way so you get a sense of the real, you know, the real technique. And then you fold, press, turn, fold, and you go again. So it's like you're kind of just folding paper over and over itself. All right. So that's the basic dough we're going to do. Okay. After you've kneaded that for a good couple of minutes, you'll see it'll get a nice, smooth, even consistency. And you want to just let that rest for about 15, 20 minutes. All right. Any questions so far?
I think we're good on the questions, but do you recommend using a food processor over doing it by hand, Chef Mark?
You saw how easy that was by hand, right?
I did. I doubt myself, and I'm sure there's got to be other amateur chefs out there that doubt themselves as well.
If you've got kids at home, that's their job, right? That's going to be their job, is to do this part. So, you know, you can have fun with it. So it's
not
really
that part that you're about to embark on. Not that part with that big knife.
So now this is, as I said, half of the dough that I had made earlier. And you can see kind of the texture of it, right? It's just been sitting at room temperature. It's soft, it's evenly incorporated. And all I'm gonna do now is just cut it in half. And then I'm gonna kind of roll it into a tube. And I've just dusted very, very lightly the surface of of my work surface there with flour, just enough so it won't stick, okay? Okay, little tube, and then we're gonna cut it again. So each of these tubes, you can roll it out, okay? You can kind of roll it this way, or you can just roll it on the surface like that, okay? And then you just cut it in pieces, okay? You're gonna roll each of these pieces in your hand until they're a nice little ball, okay?
Chef, as you're doing that, we did have I'm sorry, Chef Mark, we had a quick question. Should the dough be covered while you're letting it sit, while it's resting?
You can just, it's not covered like it's gonna dry out or like bread dough because it's not gonna rise at all. You can cover it. Yeah, I just put like another plate over the bowl or something like that. That's not a problem at all. Yeah, but you see, I'm basically just rolling these into round balls, and I'm not gonna try to add too much flour as I go, but I'm gonna use flour as needed and as necessary. So there's just a light film of flour on my cutting board here. As I need to, I'll add some, but first I'm just gonna flatten this into a disc, and I'm gonna kind of go around. You see what I'm doing there? Kind of like a little itty bitty pizza there, right? And I'm flattening it out. This is how I can ensure that it's a round circle, by doing it this way by hand for a little bit. Now, the Chinese ladies that do this, man, they are so good at it. And they have this little tiny rolling pin, and they just take it and in like 2 seconds, you're like, how did that happen? She made this perfectly round dumpling wrapper in like seconds flat, right? So, but I like to do it this way, okay? And then now I have a regular rolling pin here. All I'm gonna do is give it one press and then a turn. Press and a turn. So at each time I press it, I'm giving it a little turn. Eventually, you want the wrapper itself to be about 1/16 inch thick, and then the edges should be a tiny bit thinner. So you're going to kind of press along the edges just a little bit more than in the center. So if you notice here, I'm kind of giving priority to the edge as I roll it. And you can see this isn't perfectly round, but that's okay. It doesn't need to be perfectly round. But as you go, if you get more practice, you'll see you can start to get them a little rounder. Okay, so I'm going to show you with another one, just like this, okay? And I'm curious, Stephanie, can you tell me, is anyone doing this along with me? Let's find out. If anyone is, let's get them live and see,
absolutely.
If they want to say what they're dealing with.
If anybody is following along and wants to take a picture and put it in the chat and Facebook, that would be amazing.
Hey,
that would be impressive. And then if anybody is following along in Zoom and you want to give us a little update how things are going, we would love to hear it. And if you feel camera ready, you could also join us on the camera, but no pressure there, because I know that comes with a lot of pressure.
In particular, even whether it's on camera or whether it's just vocally, I'd like to hear, is anyone actually doing it, so we can deal with the challenges as they come up.
Great. Okay. I will let you know.
Meanwhile, I'll show you that. And then watch, I'm going to show you a little trick. Okay, so this one actually came out fairly round, but if you want to cheat a little bit, you can take a little cutter thing and you can just place it over, give it a little press, and then look, now I've cut it out. Now it's perfectly round, and see, look, I did pretty well, but I just have a little bit of the edge that came off. Now it's perfectly round. See, now I'm ready to use that to stuff my my dumplings. Okay, so you could do that, and you could just make a bunch of them. What I did before is I made a whole stack of them, and I just cut some wax paper and put them in between like that, so that I have a bunch of my wrappers ready to go. Now, let me address something. You don't have to go through all of this elaborate action to get your dumpling wrappers. You can buy them in the store. I got one here that's an example. This is the kind you buy in the store, and they're really thin. They're nicely thin, and they have a little bit of cornstarch in between. The trick with these is you want to make sure that, see, they're probably going to be frozen when you buy them in the store. Ideally, you want a store that's treated them well and hasn't let them defrost and refreeze like that, because you'll know when you open it and they crumble that it's been defrosted and refrozen, and then you want to actually go back to the store and complain and tell them, guys, don't do that to me. But otherwise, I've opened this up, and you can kind of see they like to stick together. That's about, I don't know, 10 of them, and they're all stuck together. But they do have a thin layer of cornstarch in between. So what I do is I kind of try to fan them a little bit like this, and wherever it opens, I pull it apart. Now, that's 2, right? So then I just do it again. Here we go. Now I've got 2 separate ones, and then just carefully pull them apart. So look, this one's mine that I just made. And this is the store-bought one. The only difference is that the store-bought one is a little thinner and it's more even. Definitely you would want this thickness for for steaming dumplings. I like them thick because I kind of like the dough part. So this is like the one I just made, I think that's a better thickness, but you know, you can work with either one, and I'll show you kind of how to do the stuffing in a couple minutes. All right. So did anyone take you up on the offer for the live dumpling rolling?
No one is ready to come on camera. However, we do have someone who is participating. Oh, I think we might actually have a taker. Just a minute. But we do have somebody who is working at home, and her dough is resting, she said. So.
Hey, beautiful, 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 beautiful. Okay. So meanwhile, we'll just start up with the filling. And again, this is the pork and shrimp filling. You can omit the meats if you wanted to make it vegetarian or vegan, or if you want to just do shrimp. If you were to just do shrimp, I would mince it up a little bit finer. But I've got, as I said, this is about half a pound. I got this amazing pork that came in a tube, right? And it's a really high fat pork. So this is about half a pound of that. And I grabbed about, I don't know, 10 shrimp, and I, chopped them up. You do your mixture how you want it, okay? And meanwhile, any of you who have salted your cabbage, now would be the time that you can squeeze it out, okay? So you'll see this is, as I mentioned before, this is the cabbage and carrot mixture that's been salted and kind of wilted and then squeezed out. Okay, that's the one we're actually gonna use in the recipe, okay? So I'm gonna first mix, what am I gonna do? I think I'm just gonna mix them all together. One trick you might wanna do is you see all my vegetarian ingredients that I've got here? You can mix them all together in a bowl, and that's your base. And then if you wanted to, you could divide it up and you could make some pork dumplings. You could make some ground chicken dumplings. You could make some that are just vegetarian. You could also rehydrate some rice noodles and cut them up and then use that as the base if you wanted to keep it like a vegetarian version going. But basically what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna add my shiitake, and I'm gonna add my little bit of Shaoxing wine and a little bit of the ginger. Now I like ginger, so I'm gonna put quite a bit of it in there. I'm gonna then mix in my cabbage and carrot mixture and the green onions, okay? And then that's the onion tops. And then here's a little chives, again, just because I had them. I thought it'll give us some nice color. Okay, so that's all of that mixed in a bowl. Now, you just want to go to town and mixing it up. You can use a spoon, but I like to use my hands. And I want to just very carefully make sure that I'm incorporating all of the ingredients here, okay? Take a little bit of time. You don't want to get clumps of anything. So you kind of just want to go around the side of the bowl like that, press it in a little bit. I use the same technique when I mix together meatloaf, right? I kind of use my knuckles here and I press in just a little bit. Then I take my hand and I kind of fold it in. I use my hand as if it were a spatula for folding my ingredients. See, by doing it by hand, you really get a feel for the filling. You get a feel of the texture of it and all, just all of that. At this point, if you wanted to, you could also add a little dash of sesame oil, and you can add a little bit of soy sauce as well. And I think I'm gonna do that. I have that over here. Use my hand that doesn't have stuff all over it. And this is sesame oil. One tip with sesame oil, once you've opened it, you wanna keep it in the refrigerator. It can go rancid over time and could get an off taste to it. So just keep it in the refrigerator, that helps. And then I'm just gonna give it a little splash of soy sauce. Okay, so that's my mixture. You could put in some chili powder, some Chinese 5-spice powder if you like. It's really up to you. And in fact, I'm betting that we have some Asian people watching the live stream who do their own dumplings, or maybe their mom did dumplings, and you have your way that you like to do it. So again, if you want to type something into the chat and say, well, what are the ingredients that typically go into your dumplings? I'd love to hear that. Okay. One thing that I found is that very few people put garlic directly into the dumpling mixture. Interestingly enough. Okay, so there you go. There's my mixture. Okay, I'm gonna just step over for a second and wash my hands. And Meanwhile, you can take a look at that, which is the vegetarian filling. Okay, any questions there, Stephanie?
Yes, I just got one, as a matter of fact. Perfect timing for that little hand washing break. The question was, is there a substitute for sesame oil? And then also a question about what kind of soy sauce did you use? And was it, I think, oh, that one just popped away from me. It said
just supermarket soy sauce. I'm not going to say the brand. I'm not giving them any buzz, but it's just supermarket soy sauce.
Okay.
You know, whatever you like is what you could use. Okay.
And then a substitute for sesame oil, and also a second question about sesame oil, which was, did you use white or dark?
I used a regular. This is pure sesame oil from toasted sesame seeds, right? Not the really, really dark one, right? And not the spicy one. But I really like sesame oil for its aromatic quality. You know, after it's been toasted, it has such a beautiful aromatic quality. And then here's an vegetarian filling. This is a little bit left over from the other day. I did a dinner party and they wanted egg rolls and they wanted vegetarian egg rolls. So this had snow peas, shiitake, bamboo shoots, scallions, and if you can probably see, the little white bits are the rice vermicelli noodles that I reconstituted and cut up. And those are, an easy filling. So, again, you could do what I did here, or you could do something like this. And I'm going to show you, if we have time at the end, I'm going to show you how to roll some egg roll wrappers. And I'm also going to show you how to roll Vietnamese summer rolls using the banh tron, the rice noodles, if we have time. Okay. So meanwhile, let's do some filling. Okay. So I've already pre-rolled some of my wrappers, and I'll show you with both the store-bought one and with the ones that we made here. Okay, I think you can see that on the camera now, yeah?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Can you see that? Okay.
Yep, you're good.
I'll show you with one of mine first. Okay, and so we've got this. I've got a small little bowl of water. You want to just dip your finger in the water and run it along the edge, because that's going to help me stick it together in the end, okay? And you take a small spoonful. You always, anytime you're stuffing anything, I don't care what culture it's from, you want to use less than you think you need. That's an important distinction in cooking. You go, hey, I'd like a big old spoonful of that. And you go, no, you want to use a tiny bit less. So you see how I've done that? The edge is completely blank. There's nothing around it. And then what I want to do is take one side and the other side, and I'm going to start by pinching that together. So like a little taco, right? So that's pinched together. And then I'm going to gently go along the sides and just squeeze very gently. This is why you want to, when you roll them out, you want to roll the edges a little thinner than the center, because you're going to have a double edge. And then there's a real art to just gently pinching this until it's definitely sealed without smashing it down. Okay, and then you get a little crescent moon. Looks like a pierogi, right, at this point. Okay, and then the really signature look of a dumpling, we're going to fold it. So you see there, I'm going to kind of hold it there at this angle. You want to take this in your hand and then fold this piece over. You see how I'm folding that over? And then you pinch it. This dough is supple, so it'll stretch a bit, but you don't want to stretch it so much that it tears. Okay, and then when you're done, you can kind of squeeze the whole thing together, and you got a dumpling. Okay, you can set it flat like that, so it sets on its kind of on its side with like the spine laying up like a pterodactyl or something, or you can lay it on its side like this. Okay, it's really up to you either way. Okay, so that's one we made with the pork filling and my homemade wrappers. Now I'm going to try one with the store-bought wrappers. Okay, same thing. You want to put a little bit of water on there around the edge. Use a little less filling than you think you need. And oh no, I think I've used too much. So before I mess around with it, I'm just going to take a little bit of that extra filling away with my spoon. Okay, actually a little bit more even.
Chef Mark,
when you do this enough, you get the sense of what's too much and what isn't. Yeah.
So Chef Mark, we just had a comment from someone at home who makes their own dumplings occasionally, and she said that she'll use chicken stock or juice wrung out from the veggies, especially celery, to moisten the filling and to tenderize just a little bit.
The sticky glue. That is so clever. Wow. Who said that? They're brilliant.
Her name is Lucy Yang, and she is watching with
Lucy.
us on Facebook.
Oh my God, I want to learn to cook with you, Lucy. Okay, cool. And then you see, again, I've got now these guys, these store-made ones, I know that it's gonna take a little more to stick itself to itself. So I just kind of dab it a little bit with water. And then these are more forgiving. You can give them a little more of a squeeze when you pinch the ends together over here like that. So you see I did that, okay. And then that's ready to go. So we can just keep doing that, right? And you can, like I said, you can put in the pork filling, or you can do the vegetarian filling, whatever you like, all right? So here I've actually taken my little wax paper, I'm gonna take that off. And then again, I'm just gonna make sure I go through, part of the process here when you squeeze it together is you wanna pinch it in such a way that all the air comes out. If you have too much air inside, it's gonna be bad news later on when you steam it, when you cook it, okay?
Chef Mark, I just got a couple quick things that came up. One was,
yes.
What college were you in at Yale? Which I know the answer, but I'll let you say.
I was in Saybrook.
Say what?
Say what?
And then we also
Saybrook 93.
We also had a comment and a question. One, the question was, what happens if the edges of your dumpling wrapper rip when you are folding them?
Okay, if you can kind of pinch it back together, no worries. That's fine. Or you can cut the edge. If it's the edge, you just cut that off with a knife, okay? If you tear a hole in it, just do your best to repair it, right? And it's not the end of the world. If these were gonna be boiled dumplings, that might be an issue, but these are gonna be steamed dumplings. And what you can see is I've actually lined my bamboo steamer with a cabbage leaf. You know, the outside of that cabbage, right? The first couple of leaves are yucky and you don't wanna cook with them, you don't wanna eat them, but they're great as a steamer wrapper, right? Because if I put this right onto the bamboo, right onto the bamboo there like that, it'll stick. Okay, and some people oil it and that's kind of nasty. So I just like to put either a lettuce leaf or a cabbage leaf or something like that in there, okay? So that's one layer and it's ready to go. I have two little baskets here and they stack. So I'm gonna actually put the first one over here on my, here, let me adjust my camera so you can see it. Over here, I'm just gonna go to the stove. I've got water that's steaming over here. And this, I've got the, so that the bamboo steamer just fits right over that, okay? You don't want it to be too big or too small so that instantly, here, let me just show you. I'll pull over the camera. Hopefully you can just see right in there. There's steam already coming up there. And all I do is just cover it up. And after 20 minutes or so, those should be nicely steamed, okay? I'm gonna show you how to do a few that we're gonna do as pan fried, okay? So, and I'm also gonna show you how to make shumai, which are the kind of open-faced Japanese style dumplings, okay? So let's make a few more. Meanwhile, I can, like I said, I can keep taking questions while I work here. So just let me know if there are any questions or comments or quements or anything like that.
I do have two other comments, which are actually quite similar, one in Zoom and one in Facebook. One of our watchers in Zoom said, I'm not sure if it's he or she, grew up as a Taiwanese American and they added a Chinese chive and their mom grew them in the backyard. And then similarly, Lucy let us know that she's been making these since she was 10. So you've got a serious critic on your hands, Chef Mark.
I know, yeah, well, it is a rite of passage in any Chinese family to make dumplings, right? Just as for those of us who grew up in Latin American households, we learned how to make tamales from a very early age.
So Lucy said that she adds chopped sea scallops along with chopped shrimp, and that she likes yellow chives, that she believes the yellow chives are a little less rough, but just as flavorful. So thank you, Lucy, for sharing that.
If you're so lucky to get them and you live in the Northeast, you can use ramps in early, late spring, early summer. Those are great. Oh, wow. And anything that's in the allium family, right? So whether it's chives or garlic scapes or ramps and of course, all the various kinds of chives that you find mostly in Chinese culture are really wonderful. Yeah, because they're piquant. They give a little bit of a bite to things, but they also give color and a tiny bit of texture, right? What you want is to get all of that. When this cooks on the inside, what you're going to get is the the pork texture and the shrimp texture mixed together gives you a really interesting bite. It's not just one mushy ball in the middle of your dumpling like that. Okay.
Chef Mark, we also had a question where you learned to cook. Did you attend a cooking school?
I did not. I like to joke that I went to l'école de la vraie vie, which just simply means, you know, the school of real life. You know, I loved to cook. And I did my junior year abroad in France. You know, as most of you know, Yale didn't have a France junior pro, you know, they had a Yale in China, and, you know, that was it, right? Around, you know, back when I went to Yale. But I did go through NYU, and I did a junior year in France. And I fell so in love with cooking and with food while I was there. This was back when I could eat cheese. I can no longer eat cheese in my life, but when I could eat cheese, I had a cheese shop just down the street from where I lived, and every day I went in and I sampled a different kind of cheese. I just really loved that. So I just, you know, I've spent a lot of time just in, you know, as a hobby. And, you know, I was an actor when I graduated from Yale, and I did, you know, I did my time as a New York actor. I was on, you know, I did 2 Broadway shows. I was with the Tony Randall's National Actors Theater. I did Inherit the Wind and The School for Scandal on Broadway. But I really wasn't advancing. My career wasn't advancing, and I loved to cook. And a friend was like, you know, you really should do this for a living. I was like, yeah, but I didn't go to school. He says, no, but you're a good cook. And I was like, I listened. And I said, okay, I could do this. And then what I did is you know, the smartest thing I ever did was I found the United States Personal Chef Association, which is, as the name might imply, an association of personal chefs. And they taught me how to run a business as a personal chef. They didn't teach me how to cook. They taught me how to run a business. And that was one of the best investments I ever made. So yeah, there you go. Yeah, thanks for the question. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna move over to the stove top here and move these things over. And I'm gonna heat up a nonstick pan. Can you guys still hear me?
Yep, we sure can. You're good.
Good. Okay, cool. You can do this with any kind of pan, but I'm gonna do this with a nonstick pan at first, so you guys get the sense of it. Okay. Now here's just as a peekaboo. You see they're starting to change. The texture is changing. The skin is thickening up a little bit as it steams. Yeah. So we're just gonna let those go. I'm gonna heat up a pan here, and I'm gonna give just a thin film of oil on the pan. And we're gonna make some pot stickers with these ones here, okay? Just a thin line of oil, and we're gonna fry these guys, okay? So I'm gonna take these ones I've made, and I'm gonna set them in the pan. And we're gonna start to cook them on the bottom, and they're gonna start to kind of crisp up just a little bit. And then we're gonna finish them by steaming them at the end. Okay, so that's that. Can you see that over there? It's just starting, and I'm gonna pay attention to those for a bit, but meanwhile, I'm gonna come back over here and show you how to make the shui mai, the kind of open-faced one. Okay, so I'm gonna use it using one of the commercially made ones. So we're basically gonna kind of make a well there, okay? We're gonna take a little bit of our filling and put it there in the center, and you kind of see what's happening. It's gonna be an open-faced one. So there's a bunch of ways you can do it. I like to kind of fold up all these little guys like that until I find the shape, and then I kind of mush them down. And then I rotate it like this, and then press it. Now, I don't know how they do it explicitly in a Japanese restaurant, but that's how I do it. And what I like to do is put just a little bit of water on the edges. Then, hold on, let me get the angle. Can you see that angle good? Then I just kind of make sure it stands on its own, okay? Could probably use a tiny bit more filling on this one. So you can do that with either your homemade ones or your store-bought ones. So first you got to peel them apart. Okay, there we go. Okay, again, put the filling, kind of make a little well with it. Bunch all these little edges together. And then once I kind of feel like I've got the shape of it, I can kind of roll it around like this and make sure the edges stick together. That one's a little bit better. That's a better example of the shumai. Okay. And again, I have my little cabbage leaf with the bamboo, and I'm gonna set these in here to steam. Let me make one more as we do that, and you can see it. So has anyone out there in Zoom land progressed to the stage where they're filling something?
We don't have any brave souls yet, but if we do, I will let you know.
Yeah, you see I'm kind of like forming a well with that and pressing the edges. And then once it's shaped, I'm gonna kind of make sure it stands up straight. And then really, like I said, just kind of turn it around until it stands on its own. Okay, so there you go. That's the example of that. I'm only gonna make a few of those right now, but I'm gonna now add them to my steamer. The great thing about these little steams is that you can stack them up. Okay, you can do a bunch of them. All right, so now back over here to my pot stickers. I'm gonna grab some tongs and then just give them a flip, see? Ooh, look at that, they got some nice color on them on the one side. Some people don't ever turn them. Some people just leave it on one side and then steam it. But I'm gonna just give it a quick turn, okay, like that. And then we're gonna add some water. All right, now careful, this is gonna splatter a little bit because you got some oil in there. But you add a little bit of water. And then we're gonna let that come up to the steam. You see how it's starting to boil and steam? Can you see that? Then we just cover it. I put a little bit too much water in there, but you get the idea, right? You cover it so that it steams up. Okay. Actually, yeah, all right. A chef admits his mistakes. I'm gonna pour a little of the extra water off. It's a little too much. A little too much water. All right, now take two, here we go. It's back on, it's got a little bit of water. I'm gonna put the lid on there and it's gonna steam up. All right. You gotta come clean when you mess up. All right.
That's okay. I would have probably lit my kitchen on fire already. So you're doing an amazing job. They look delicious. We can hear them sizzling in the background.
Great. Okay. Now, next little bit, I'm going to show you how to wrap egg rolls. And I'm going to show you how to wrap up some Vietnamese summer rolls. Just getting my ingredients over here. Yeah, you can kind of hear that lid bubbling there, right? So these are Van Trong Vietnamese summer rolls, and I've got two different sizes. This is the large size, and here's the small size. I'm going to use some of these small ones right now and just show you how you can make a easy, fresh summer roll. There's all kinds of things that they tell you about how to use this. I find the easiest way of all is simply to run the water out of your spigot in your sink and run this under the water for about 10 seconds or so. All right, and that's what I'm gonna do here. I'm just gonna run it under the water and I'm letting it get wet. You see it's still kind of rigid, but you can see that, I don't know if you can see in there, it's, now it's kind of see-through. Hi, what's up? Now it's wet enough that if I just set that on a plate and let it sit for a little, like 30 seconds or more, it will soften up to the point where we can roll it, okay? And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a little bit of my vegetable filling, and if this were a Vietnamese roll, you could put a lot of fresh herbs in it, okay? I'm merely showing you this mostly for the example of how to roll it, okay? So I'm not saying that this is an authentic roll. To make it authentic, you really would have, I would do thin strips of carrot. I would put some bean sprouts. I would have some thin sliced scallion. I would do some of the vermicelli noodles. And I would do Thai basil, cilantro, and mint as well. And those would all go in there. And can you kind of see now the edges are curling up just a little bit? It's getting a little kind of wrinkly, like when you've been sat in the bathtub too long and your fingers get a little wrinkly. So now it's ready to roll. So I'm just going to gently pull up the edges. You see, I can kind of gently pull them up here. I'm gonna fold over once, pull back gently till it's snug, just like if you were rolling a cigar. Okay, I got a little extra that came out. I'm just gonna throw that to the side. Fold the edge over. Can you guys see that there? Fold one edge over, fold the other edge over, and then roll it around. And then it's gonna, you see my last little bit here, we're gonna roll it and then it's gonna sit on that so that it seals itself. Okay, and that's just a little Vietnamese summer roll, and that can be eaten fresh just like that. Okay, you can add a little bit of a sweet chili dipping sauce like this. Okay, you just kind of dip that in and go. You can also make egg rolls in a similar method, and I'm going to show you that here in a second. But I'm going to check my little pot stickers here. Oh yeah, they're almost done. I'm going to lower the heat and let those finish. Okay, so these are some store-bought egg roll wrappers. Again, the biggest challenge with these guys is pulling them apart and not ripping them. But you can kind of see they're held. They've got a little bit of cornstarch in between each layer. Oftentimes, the top layer is no good, so I'm going to take the next layer. And like I said, you kind of have to peel them apart. There we go. Okay, great. So I'm going to set it like in a diamond shape with the points towards me. And I'm going to put some of my filling in there. And you want to put it kind of in an oblong shape like this. I'm going to double check you can still see me. Can you still see that there? Yeah, okay.
Yep,
then we're going to pick the corner that's closest to you, fold it over, pull back. And then again, this is the key part, is you want to press it in such a way that it presses and seals, but you don't want to break it. Okay, so you got to be gentle here. And you're going to basically fold it like an envelope. Can you kind of see that? It's an envelope. And then wrap it around and then put a little bit of water there. You can use egg to seal this if you want, some egg wash, and roll it around. And there you go, you got an egg roll. Now this is the kind that you're going to fry, okay? You're gonna fry this in some shallow oil, and I've got a whole bunch that I've made in advance there, okay? So there you go, we did egg rolls, we did a little Vietnamese summer roll, we did our pot stickers, we did our little shoo mai, and we did our just traditional dumplings. So there's our pot stickers. Those guys are done and ready to go. You can see my shoo mai are kind of going, they're steaming there. And if you'll give me just a moment, I'm going to set my camera on a tripod here and lift up the steamer with my pot holders. And there you go. Now you can see the finished steamed dumplings.
Those look amazing. About how long would you say, Chef Mark, generally speaking, that you would keep those on the steam?
The smart aleck answer would be till they're done. and I don't say that just to I don't say that just to be a smart aleck, because I want you to start to develop a sense of your own about when things are ready. Okay, I'm going to say about 15 to 20 minutes. The good news is you can leave it on the steam until you're ready to eat them. You know, generally they don't, I mean, you don't want to leave them on forever, but you know, the steam will keep them warm. You can turn the heat to low or turn it off, and that'll keep them warm long enough. I mean, you know, if you think about it, when you go get dim sum in a Chinese restaurant, they're coming around with the little steam tables, right? They bring one of those little bamboo baskets and it's got steam coming in, as that's what keeps it warm. So, you know, you can keep it for a while and you need not worry about that. But yeah, I'd say about 20 minutes or so, but you can start to get a sense. You'll see that the skin, the texture of the skin has changed. It's gotten really supple. It's gotten shiny and a little bit of dimples in it on the edges. You'll see, I'll show you again here. Well, that's my shoo mai, but these guys, you can see it just looks way different than it was before. You see these guys, and they're solid. You see it's like one solid piece, okay? And then the same with my shoo mai. It's kind of solidified. Now that hasn't been on as long, so that's going to take a little bit longer to finish. And of course, there's pork and shrimp in there, so you want to make sure it's cooked all the way through.
That's probably a good rule of thumb, I guess.
That's the other thing. Yeah. But again, you're steaming it on full speed for about 20 minutes. So, you don't need to worry about it. It will cook through pretty quickly. These are small little packets of love, so, it doesn't take a long time.
Thank you. We just had a quick question on Zoom from someone asking about the list of ingredients. And yes, the list of ingredients is on the Yale Alumni Association webpage, which is alumni.yale.edu. You can find it in the events listing. So if you want to come back to this video, which will be up within the next day or so, you can follow along when you have your ingredients.
Cool. All right. I don't even know what time it is. Have we used up an hour, or
you have
time for questions?
I mean, I'm just blown away at how fast you just went through that amazing meal. So we are at 8:52, and we definitely have time for questions. If anybody
bring them on.
has any questions, I actually have a question about the bamboo tool that you're using. Is that really the best?
The steamer basket.
Use? Yeah. Is the bamboo steamer basket the best?
Give me a second. I'll show you a couple other options. Okay.
Awesome. And if anybody else has questions in Zoom or in Facebook, feel free to drop those in the comments for us. And we're going to make sure that you know how to reach out to Chef Mark should you like to find him.
This is like a cheapy colander, right? You see the little holes in it, but it's flat. You could use that. And again, line it with a lettuce leaf or something, because again, the holes let the steam come through. The lettuce leaf makes it so that you don't stick, right? Or the cabbage leaf. And this is it's a steamer insert that came with a set of, I don't know, what is this, Cuisinart? Yeah, came with a set of pots, and you can kind of see there's graduated rings here that lets it sit snug on each different size of pot. And that's a steamer insert, right? Or you can use it to, when you pour pasta out like that, right? But I do that. But again, with these guys, because they're metal, don't put the dumplings right on, because they'll rip off when you get them. They'll be cooked, but then half of them will stay on the thingy. So, line them with something. The other option, if you don't have cabbage leaf or lettuce leaf, is wax paper. Oh, not wax paper. I'm sorry. No, scratch that. Don't use wax paper.
Oh, please don't use that.
Parchment paper. That's the word. Parchment paper. Parchment paper. And you can make sure you poke a few holes in the parchment paper so the steam can come through. Okay. So, and then you can spray a little bit of oil on them as well, on the paper, right? So that your little dumplings don't stick.
Perfect. And you said
anything else? Any other questions?
Yeah, we did have one other question, which I think you just answered. The question was, what kind of leaves did you use? And I think you said, did you use cabbage leaves?
This was cabbage leaves, because I was using cabbage, right? And the outer leaves of the cabbage, which you peel off and throw away, they're useful, right? You just rinse them off, make sure there's no visible dirt or gunk on them, and just rinse them off, and then lie them inside the bamboo steamer, right? And you see what happens is the lettuce leaf itself, I keep saying lettuce, the cabbage leaf itself keeps getting cooked, right? That's fully cooked, right? But it's permeable. You can, steam goes through it. So it's an ideal way to cook. And see, look, the shumai just comes right off. See, it doesn't stick at all. It's just right on there like that. Okay. And then same deal here. Here's wow, this is hot. This is the one that was on the lower level. Those are the little dumpling guys. And you see that cabbage leaf is really cooked. But again, we're not eating the cabbage leaf. We're just using it as a bed for cooking our little guys. Okay. All right. Oh, and then the last little thing is, if you want a really super quick and easy dipping sauce for your dumplings, mix together a little bit of soy sauce, a little bit of rice wine vinegar, a little bit of sesame oil, and a little bit of hot chili flakes.
Look at that.
Super easy, right?
Completely done in an hour.
or some sesame seeds, or like whatever. But just, my whole thing is, cook with your senses, all 5 of them. Follow a recipe is there to give you a general sense of the ingredients and a little bit of the method. But what I want you to do is to cook with all of them. Your smell, your taste, touch, your eyes, your ears. Like I heard the pot stickers were starting to sizzle, and it was time to go add the water, right? So you want to kind of over time really develop the listening of when things are ready by your ears, your eyes, all of that, right? And remember, a recipe was a blueprint of what happened on the day that the person made the recipe, with all of the conditions they had. So their altitude, their humidity, the kind of stove they had, like the size of the cabbage and the texture of the shrimp that they, it's all that. So you want to use that as a guideline, and then trust yourself and trust your own taste. The name of my business is Remarkable Palate. And I don't say that because I have a remarkable palate. I say it because I want my customers to develop their palates, and to be, to know you can have a remarkable palate, and you can trust your palate, you can trust your taste, you can trust what you like for yourself, and go from there. So always use the recipe or the technique as a base, and do what you like, or do what you have. Remember at the beginning of this pandemic, we didn't have very much. So we were just kind of figuring out what to do, and most of the great recipes of all cultures were because people made do with what they had. So don't forget that, right? So you don't have to freak out if you miss one ingredient. Okay.
Chef Mark, that's fantastic. And I have to say, I've loved doing these Yale Alumni Lives, and it's been a great way to bring people together virtually. But this might be the first time, maybe the second time, the cocktail class included, that I'm terribly disappointed that I am here and not there in the kitchen with you hosting this, because I would really like to have some of those right now, because they look absolutely amazing.
Yeah, thank you. You can see this I'm showing you a little corner of my tiny New York kitchen, right? But, and again, that's another thing. You don't have to have a big fancy kitchen and big fancy tools to make good food. For most of human history, we had a fire, and if we were lucky, a little piece of iron to cook stuff on. So again, don't worry about it if you don't have a really fancy kitchen.
So Chef Mark, we do have a brave soul who has followed along tonight, who is willing to come on with us, who is one of my favorite colleagues, quite honestly. Her name is Carissa, and I think we're going to see her in just a minute in her kitchen.
Hi, Carissa.
Hi.
Sorry, Carissa. Thanks for following along with us tonight.
Yeah,
Sweet.
really cool.
What college were you in, Carissa?
So I'm actually a staff member, and I joined the YA about a year ago. So
cool. So I should ask you then, which college is your favorite? Make sure you say Saybrook.
Oh gosh, sure. Tonight it'll
Saybrook. Saybrook, Carissa.
Definitely.
So let's see. What'd you come up with? How far along did you make in the recipe? Yeah, let's see.
There we go. I'm doing my little pot stickers. So
your
I've
little
just
babies.
got them in.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't have any color on them yet, but hopefully soon.
Okay. So this is a good step for you. With stuff like that, with anything that needs to get color on the bottom, we call that, it's the Maillard reaction, right? There was a French scientist named Maillard who studied the process of caramelization, and you can't turn it too soon. Either you'll never get any color at all, or you'll rip it right off it'll stick to the surface. You gotta have the courage to let it sit there until it releases itself.
Okay. So I will be, I will listen to that sizzling.
Yeah. Start off on high heat. Be brave, my good soul.
Be brave, Carissa.
Start off on high heat, and then lower the heat to like medium or so. Once it's developed a little, you can see and hear that it's starting to get brown underneath there. Lower it a little bit and just tease it with your tongs until it wants to turn over or release itself. And like I said, and if you don't want to take that step, you can leave them as they are, put a little bit of water, and then put the lid on, and you'll just have one side that has the sticky side, or the pot sticky side. You know what I'm saying?
Awesome.
Yeah. Cool. Yay.
Thanks for joining us, Carissa. So Chef Mark, we just had one more person ask for the ingredients, so I'm just going to let you know. Let's see, where is it? Carla, the ingredient list is on alumni.yale.edu. If you go under events and virtual events, you will see Chef Mark's bio, all of his information, including the ingredient list. And fortunately, we've been recording this today. So when we do post this on our Vimeo page that has all of our webinars and all of our Yale Alumni Labs, we'll also include the ingredient list there, and maybe some tips about the tools that Chef Mark used today, which we have now as well. So I'm just looking to see if there's anybody else with any questions, or if you just want to tell everybody one more time, Chef Mark, how they can find you if they are in the city and would love a delicious meal.
Yeah, so the name of my business is Remarkable Palate. You can find me at remarkablepalate.com, and on social media I'm Chef Mark with a K, M-A-R-K, on most social, on Twitter and on Instagram, and on Facebook. You can find me under Chef Mark on all of those. So you know, drop a line, say you're a Yaley, say you saw this, you know, and let's talk. You know, I always love to share recipes and share ideas.
Thank you so much, Chef Mark.
And from Lucy, I want to hear her tips. Right?
Lucy has put a ton of information in the comments on Facebook, so you are going to have to go back and visit that and connect with Lucy after this.
Yeah.
So we are just so grateful.
We want to give a nod to authenticity
yes.
where you must, right? A nod to authenticity. Thank you, Lucy, for including that in. Yeah.
Thank you all. So I don't think we have any more questions. We've hit our hour mark. So I'm going to thank you once again, Chef Mark, so much for being here. We've had a great time watching you work in your kitchen this evening. And just once again, yale.alumni.edu. If you're enjoying these Yale Alumni Lives and you know somebody who might be amazing, maybe another Sabrookian, perhaps, who would like to get on the camera with me and entertain us while we're all home and staying safe, my email is Stephanie with an F, so I understand your plight. Chef Mark, Stephanie, stefane.sessler@yale.edu. I'd love to hear from you. And again, this will be posted on our website, so come back and revisit it and cook with Chef Mark once again. So we're going to hang out in the Zoom for just another minute if anybody has questions. But otherwise, this has been yet another edition of Yale Alumni Live.
Stephanie.
So thank you all
Kevin.
so much.